Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Caregiver Crosswalk, Dementia Care Consulting. Never roam alone.
Oh, Corey, first of all, happy birthday again. It is your birthday as you sing along to Bon Jovi. And we have to give a shout out to Ken Doran and his team. Wonderful initiative, and it's not too late. It's called localsforlocals.ca, and there are 17 restaurants and over 15 nonprofits involved. Basically, you buy from a restaurant, and they will donate a portion to the nonprofit that they select. So, for example, I'm, as you know, Corey, on the board of Nova West Island, and they are sponsored by Duke and Divines. And so it works like that in all the restaurants. Mm-hmm. And in addition, there is an amazing comedy show going on, and you could purchase these tickets. And if you use promo code FUNNY, you'll get a $5 discount, and there will be an additional $5 donation to the cause as well. So hats off to that. That's today, March 13th. Corey, I even think one of your organizations, one that
That's
you're
right.
very proud of.
So Matt is helping and working, doing a great job at Nova. And I am, as many of you know, Myra's Kids Foundation is my pride and joy, but the promo code for Myra's Kids is used if you want to donate specifically to Myra's Kids. I'm going tonight. It's my birthday, and I'm going to laugh if I want to.
Good for you. No, very good. Oh, look at Jimmy on the board.
Jimmy, you are the best.
Wonderful. Love it. So you know what? Great cause. And talk about great cause, great people. Frontline workers and specifically social workers has their world ever changed in the last year? So, Corey, you know Katja well, and
yes.
Go ahead and do an introduction.
So, all that to say, we're doing lots of work to try and support nonprofits, and there's a lot of people out there working so hard during this pandemic. So, we're thrilled. I am elated to have a very special social worker on the line. Katja Teixeira has been a social worker at the Jewish General Hospital since 2017. She's worked in areas such as family medicine, dialysis, surgical oncology, COVID-19 hot zones. She wore the whole garb and more. She's also a very special volunteer, a grief counselor at Myra's Kids Foundation, our program. And a family friend. So it's wonderful to have Katja here with us on Life Unrehearsed. Welcome, Katja.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Happy birthday.
Thanks so much. So I appreciate it. Now we're going to go back to you. So let's start with what is your role at the Jewish General Hospital?
Such a big question. So social workers kind of wear all sorts of hats, but social workers at the Jewish General and most hospitals, I think in Montreal, we support families. We're there for emotional support. We're there for informational support and resource counseling to discuss relocation with families and patients who can no longer return to their previous areas of living. A lot of advocacy going on in there too, family meetings, a lot of family work, and working within the multidisciplinary team on the unit to kind of assist and help from a social work and psychosocial perspective.
Social workers, true angels, and under pressure every single day, Katja. God bless you for what you do. In my line of work, as Corey knows, I deal a lot with healthcare workers and particularly social workers in all the hospitals. And, your world has changed since the beginning of the pandemic. Can you give us some real examples of what you're doing now that perhaps you weren't doing a year ago?
Well, a lot of and I do have to count myself lucky too, because a lot of the social workers in the hospitals, we weren't deployed elsewhere. We remained in the hospital setting throughout the whole time. So I do have to consider myself lucky in that point of view. And we're doing a lot of the same things as we were doing before, just under a different context, and it kind of looked a little bit different. So instead of family meetings in person, we're maybe doing them over Zoom healthcare. Now we're doing them over Teams. A lot of same thing, but just done a little more virtually, a little differently. The kind of pathway, let's say, for relocation processes has changed a little bit too, with all the policies and protocols, and with everything changing, it kind of changed week to week. But I would have to say it's a lot of similar things, just in a very different context.
That's Katja Teixeira we're talking to on Life Unrehearsed, and actually we're going to share a very special initiative that she took on, but before that we want to get some more background information. So I alluded to it when I introduced you. You not only did you have to pivot and change some of the ways in which you did your work, you also had to change your attire or your uniform as you, what did that look like and how did that change during the past year?
Well, since now that we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary, unfortunately, things haven't changed that much from what we were wearing at the beginning of the pandemic to what we're wearing now. So if we're in a COVID hot zone, which is where I'm working at the present time, it's scrubs that are provided by the hospital. Everything's provided by the hospital. We never have to go without. So it's scrubs, one of those gowns, often they're yellow or blue, and a mask, a hairnet, one of the face shields, and gloves. So we're pretty bundled up. Hot zone for more than one reason, because it's pretty hot under all of that.
Sure. Yeah, I would imagine. And then, just protocols with taking the PPEs off properly and just, I guess, a change for a lot. And talk about change, Katja, there's been a lot of challenges to the ability for you to offer support to loved ones and family members. There's a lot more restrictions. It's been, some really sad stories about family members not being able to see their loved ones. But social workers have sort of been the unsung heroes for some of these issues. So can you tell us some of the ways that you and your colleagues have helped families to stay connected while their loved ones are in hospital?
Absolutely. So a lot of advocacy. So the hospital, for very good reason, has a lot of policies and protocols about who can visit and who can't. So in certain circumstances, social workers are the key people to advocate for maybe a bending of the rules in certain circumstances for humanitarian reasons. And at first, I would say we were doing a lot of the video and Zoom calls at the beginning of the pandemic, but now that we've gotten into more of a flow of things, the nursing teams as well have taken on that to be able to have people see each other when they can't be right next to each other, and support while their loved one is in the hospital too. Do a lot of telephone support when people can't come, either by choice because they feel like it's too much of a risk for them to come at this time, or if they're just living in another country or something and can't come in. So a lot of support over the phone is what we're doing. And I would say informational support is a big thing. And I never thought that I would have to, as part of like an intervention, like describe what a unit looks like. But some people, it's very frightening not to know what the unit looks like that their loved one is on. They don't know what circumstances everybody is under, and all they're seeing is the news and these dark, cold wards and stuff. So kind of explaining to them what the physical surroundings look like can often be a really big help to reduce their level of distress and change the way that they're perceiving the situation too.
And the way you describe it, I feel like it's so comforting. The way you do it, I have no doubt that you are so good at it. But we have to go out to traffic, and we're going to talk about how good you are. This woman on Life Unrehearsed won an award because she helped plan a wedding for someone in palliative care.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
Katja planned a wedding of a palliative care patient who wanted to marry their longtime partner before he died. Katja, please share this with us.
Oh my goodness. So the client and his wife are such inspiring, strong, courageous people. This actually happened in the summertime, and he has since passed away. But his wife, through his whole admission, was just so devoted, loving, strong. She's just such a special person. So this couple wanted to get married, actually, they had this idea way before the pandemic started. So they planned it all themselves for March. They planned everything. But I think it was 2 days before they were supposed to get married on a Saturday in the hospital of their own initiative. The pandemic exploded. No visitors were permitted. He was transferred off my unit, transferred to a different unit because COVID really took over the hospital. And then when things lightened up again a couple of months later, he was transferred back onto my unit. We became a normal surgical unit again. And it was actually on the previous unit that he was on that they had started to work with the family to kind of say, okay, how can we make this happen for you? What can we do? But they hit a lot of roadblocks with all of the safety policies and the safety procedures that the hospital implemented in order to keep things a little under control. So I kind of took on the project, so to speak, to try to facilitate that. So the couple basically chose the date, and I navigated the policies to try to make it happen for them. So at the end of the day, after advocating with security and trying to permit the event to take place and doing the screening for the officiant and the witnesses and the bride and trying to advocate for them all to be able to come in, I got permission from security, but the caveat was that security couldn't, give someone from their staff to supervise the event. So that was another roadblock we encountered. But on the day, we helped him get dressed. The physio was there as well. She worked on the Sunday. We helped him transfer to his wheelchair. A nurse came with us just in case something happened. And the surgeon stopped by as well at perfect timing because none of us knew how to tie a tie, and he kind of swooped in and saved the day because we were like, oh my God, we can't tie this tie, and he was getting frustrated because he couldn't do it either. And then the surgeon popped up and was like, oh, I know how to tie a tie. So it was just this beautiful collaborative moment that really sort of shone through the whole thing. So it was such a special time for them, and it was just a very happy day.
Unbelievable, Katja. That's Katja Teixeira, social worker at the Jewish General Hospital, and talking about a wedding she arranged. And we have to just reiterate, this was certainly, talk about compassionate grounds. Well, here's someone, Palliative Care, and you made an actual wedding happen. I think you even came in on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And where did it actually take place? Was it like where his bed was, or how did this work?
No, so they wanted something, because this was their wedding day. They wanted something a little bit more than just a hospital room. And at the hospital, there's a beautiful spot, the solarium on the 6th floor. It gets so much light. It's a beautiful, beautiful view of the oratory, and a very, it was the sunniest day. So we brought them there. We set it up. We cleared out the space before they got there to leave enough room for everyone to distance, for some nice photos to be taken as well. And so we zhuzhed up the room a little bit, I guess, but it was on the 6th floor solarium.
Nice.
It's such a feel good story. There's no question. How did you even get clothing, dresses, hair, all the stuff that goes along with wedding stuff?
It was, when the puzzle pieces just fall into place. I think that's kind of what happened. The bride came beautifully already dressed, and they brought flowers. They had them delivered to the hospital, and she had brought clothes for him, I think a couple of days before. We arranged with the orderlies to get him showered and shaved that morning, so he felt his best as well, and he felt like it was a special day too. So it was really such a collaborative team effort. It was really nice.
I believe you even got an award for that, Katja. So congratulations, Katja Teixeira, social worker at the Jewish General Hospital. Put a huge smile, obviously, on this wonderful patient in palliative care. Now, very quickly before we wrap up, Katja, self-care. It's always a challenge in normal circumstances.
Yep.
And talk about self-care 1 year into a pandemic. You are an extremely stressful job, high rate of burnout. What are some of your methods of self-care that you're doing and your colleagues as well?
Oh my goodness. We hear self-care, we think bubble baths and candles and stuff like that. And, with the pandemic, gyms closed, theaters closed, movie theaters closed, you can't see your friends, you can't go out for drinks, you can't do anything. So even if you had a good routine, I think the pandemic uprooted it for all of us. So throughout it became more about boundary setting. It became more about saying no to Zoom calls. If we're having Zoom call fatigue, which I know a lot of people were just so done with staring at screens, And, the biggest thing was just telling people I didn't want to talk about COVID sometimes.
Fair enough.
You're living it all day, every day, and then someone sees something on the news and they're wanting you to verify it, or like, what's the gossip, or, what's the real story like, kind of thing. And sometimes throughout this last year, it had just been, setting that limit and boundary and saying, let's talk about something else. I'm going to respect my limit right now. Like, I work in it all day, and I want to talk about it right now. And most of the time it's worked for people. I really got into yoga the last couple of months. We've been really getting back into books again too, choosing to go for a walk, choosing to be in the sun, the small little things that can bring a moment of peace have been very pivotal.
Well, good for you. I want to thank you so much for giving us some time to talk about some of the incredible work you do. God bless you and everything that you do. That's Katja Teixeira. She's a social worker at the Jewish General Hospital, and she is magical.
Thank you, Katja. You're great. Wonderful. Keep up your great work. Corey, what do we have next week?
Next week, we'll be talking to New York Times bestselling author Michael Moss about how the food giants exploit our addictions. He'll have some bombshell revelations about what the food manufacturers are doing to enhance our love of food.
And we'll also have former NHLer and tough guy Brant Myers. He made millions in the bigs, but blew it all on drugs and alcohol. He's turned his life around, and now he's with the Los Angeles Kings as a sober coach. So that's going to be next week on Life Unrehearsed on Saturdays at 3 p.m. You can catch us every Saturday at that time. Special thank you to Jimmy G working the board today, and thank you for joining us.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.